In this episode, we'll take a look at the Aputure Tri-8c LED panel light. Aputure has two lines of lights, the Amaran line and the Lightstorm line. The Amaran line is sort of their more entry level, and the Lightstorm is their more professional level, but the Amaran Tri-8c sits at the top of their Amaran line and really kind of brings a lot of the features of Lightstorm down to the Amaran line. First of all, the Tri-8c has 888 LEDs, and this LED panel is color tunable. So first of all, let's take a look at the color quality. To do the color quality test, we shot with the Tri-8 and also a tungsten light, and tungsten is really kind of the reference here. We shot a X-Rite color checker video color chart, and if you look at the color charts in the vector scopes when you bring it into post, you can see here that they're very close, and that's usually a very good sign that the color quality is going to be very similar to tungsten, which is one of the best overall even lighting sources available out on the market. So this LED does really, really well. Far cry from where we were about 3 or 4 years ago, when a lot of the LEDs on the market produce these really strange colors and the skin tones looked awful. With the Tri-8c, you don't have to worry about that at all. In terms of build quality, this is the best of the Amaran line so far. The cover over the LEDs is truly tough. Some sort of, I can't tell if it's PVC or whatever it is, it's really tough, and I think it'll hold up very nicely. The back is aluminum, and then the control unit is plastic, and then there are metal handle stands. These handle stands are kind of interesting. You can use them to sort of Hollywood your lights, that is to say, hold them and actually do a quick shot that way. Or you can set them on the ground and use them as stands, which is really pretty helpful as well. There are buttons to release the MPF-style batteries, and there's also an AC adapter harness that's metal. Of course, it holds the AC adapter. Comes with a metal stud and a plastic and metal adjustable mount, which will fit on most standard light stand studs. The mount also has an umbrella receiver, so you can easily soften the light to use it as a soft key light. Also includes either a Sony V mount or an Anton Bauer gold mount plate, depending on which you choose when you purchase. And this means you can also power this unit with much larger professional grade batteries, so you can get a lot more time on those. Now, as we mentioned before, the Tri-8 is color tunable all the way from 2300 Kelvin, which is well below tungsten, all the way up to 6800 Kelvin. And so this is really great because not only can you match most existing light, but you can also use it as a really nice sort of accent light if you want to kind of produce some stylized colors. And I find it really useful for that. In fact, that's kind of my main use for this particular light. My kind of secondary use is to use it as a fill light outdoors when I just need to get a little bit of light into people's eyes to kind of fill in the eyes and make them really kind of pop a little bit more. So these are the kind of two main uses. You could also use it as a key light. Again, as I mentioned before, it does have an umbrella receiver on the holder, and that softens the light up really nicely, which makes a nice flattering light on most people's faces. To give you an idea of how much output this produces, the specification says 6500 lux at 1 meter. Now, in my practical test, when I set the light to 5600 Kelvin, that is daylight, and the ISO to 200, shutter speed 1/50th of a second, my reading on the light meter was aperture 5.6 and a half, approaching f8, so that's pretty good output. When I switch it to 3200 Kelvin, again ISO 200, shutter speed 1/50th of a second, came out to a little bit closer to f8 even. Now, just to put that in context, the COB120d, when I set it to ISO 200, shutter 1/50th of a second, it came out to f11, and then finally, the LS1S, the Lightstorm LED panels from Aputure, ISO 200, shutter speed 1/50th of a second, it came out also to f11. So the Tri-8 is not quite as powerful as the Lightstorms, but it's really respectable for what you pay. One thing that's really important about LED lights, and in fact any lights, is what's the beam angle? Is it kind of a spotlight, kind of a beam, or is it really, really wide, more of a floodlight? And in the case of the Tri-8, it's actually surprisingly a spotlight at about 25-degree beam angle. Now, just for comparison, here's the COB120d, which is the more kind of a hard light that's you can also put a Fresnel lens on. This is without the Fresnel lens, just the included reflector. And then here also is the Lightstorm LS1S, the original Lightstorm LED panel. And you can see here also the beam does not appear to be affected. You can't cut the light with the included barn doors on the Lightstorm. And so I'm just kind of highlighting that here so you understand that it's no big deal that from my point of view, that the Tri-8 doesn't come with barn doors, because barn doors don't really cut the light on panels anyway. It's just the nature and the physics of panel lights. However, what it does come with is this really nice little softbox called the Easy Box. You can mount this right on the Tri-8. That softens up the light nicely. It also comes with a couple of diffusion panels that you can place right over the light, and that diffuses it even further. Now, this is not like using a light dome from Aputure on the COB120 series. It's not quite that soft, but it definitely does a nice job of softening things up just a little bit to take that harsh edge off the light when you put it on someone's face, for example. Now, the powering options on the Tri-8 are fantastic. You have, of course, AC power, so you can plug into power mains, but you also have 2 included NPF 970 style batteries. These are like the Sony NPF batteries, and this will power the Tri-8 for 1 hour and 49 minutes on full power when it's set to 4400 Kelvin. That's actually really respectable. I was impressed by that. Now, you also have a D-tap input, so you can also power with an Anton Bauer or a V-mount battery. It also comes with the included plate, so you don't have to buy an extra plate. And you can get even longer with those batteries depending on the size you add to it. One thing that's really awesome about this too is that in terms of charging the included NPF style batteries, you just put them on the light and plug into mains. And once you've done that, it charges right there in the light. So really nice feature. You don't have to worry about bringing in an extra charger. It's all right there. I did a whole series of flicker tests, changing the shutter speed to much faster shutter speeds than you would typically shoot with for regular cinema, which is usually a 180-degree shutter angle, or if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, say, for example, that'd be 1/48th of a second or 1/50th of a second. I was not able to detect any sort of flicker, even when I set the light down to 10%, which is where you're usually going to find that type of thing. I went all the way up to a 15-degree shutter angle and didn't see any sort of flicker, so looks like things are pretty solid there. One of the challenges with a lot of LED lights, and all lights indeed, is the fact that many of them have fans and produce noise, and the sound department never likes noise that's produced by the lights. Great news here is that it's all passively cooled with a very nice aluminum sort of heatsink back, and there is no fan, so you get absolutely no noise. The sound department loves you, Aputure. One really nice feature about the Tri-8 is it comes with the same remote that's used for all of the other Lightstorm lights in the Aputure line. So you can control all of your lights, and that makes the Amaran Tri-8 a very nice addition to another kit that includes a bunch of Aputure lights. So one remote controls them all. The really nice thing about this remote is that you can gang lights up onto the same channel or the same group. You can also put them all on their own channel or group and control them independently. So this is really nice when you're standing at the camera. You've got the lights set up, but you want to kind of fine-tune them and really dial in the look you want. This makes it really easy because you can be standing at the camera controlling every single one of the lights. It also comes with this soft case, which makes it very easy to transport. That's also a nice touch. In terms of pricing, at the time of this review, the color tunable version, which we looked at here, comes in at $498 US, and the non-color tunable, daylight colored Tri-8 comes in at $489 US. My overall summary is that this is a really fantastic little panel. It's really tough. I like the build quality. I like that it can be tuned to such a wide range of different colors, so I really like to use this as an accent light or as a hair light. You could also use it as a key light if you are willing to up your ISO a little bit more, but overall, it's really, really good. Are there any cons? I guess the only thing I could potentially point out is, and we'll have to see over time, the plastic adapter that holds the light onto a light stand is plastic. It seems like a pretty decent grade of plastic, and hopefully that holds up okay. The stud that screws directly into the unit seems very solid, but getting it cinched down really tight took a little bit of work. Again, these are not showstopper issues, just a couple of thoughts that occurred to me as I was working with it over the last several weeks. But overall, I think it's a really, really good buy. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you do that. And we'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk to you soon.